Hi class! So today we're going to talk about what influences our food choices and why does it matter. So first, I'm going to have you think about these two questions and write a couple of your answers and your thoughts on your paper. I'll give you just about 30 seconds to think about these. Now, if we were live, I'd love to have you get together in groups and to talk about your answers to these questions, but since we're not, we'll move on. Um, so we're going to start out. These are the 5 things that we're going to talk about. These are 5 categories of things that affect our choices about food. And so we have the biological category, the economic and physical category, the social category, psychological, and our attitudes, beliefs, and knowledge about food. So those are the 5 things we're going to cover in this mini lesson. The first one's biological. So the things in biological that are going to affect how we make choices about food, the biggest one is hunger. Hunger is what makes us want to eat, and so that's going to play a big part in the choices we make about what food we eat. And then satiety is the feeling between meals when you're not hungry. It's feeling full, it's feeling content. And that makes a big difference too, because if we feel full, we're less likely to eat. Palatability is the pleasure you get when you eat food because of the way that it tastes, the way that it smells, its texture, and its appearance. So maybe you don't like the texture of bananas, and so that's going to affect your choices in foods. You're not going to choose a banana because you don't like the texture. So these are some of my favorite foods off to the left. In-N-Out Burger and Costa Vida. I love the way they taste and the way they look, the appearance. So those are the biological things that affect our choices about food. The second one is our economic and physical category, and so cost can be a big part of the choices people make in food. If people don't make as much money, or if they are poor, they may have less options of what they can eat. Vegetables and fruits can get pretty expensive sometimes, and so cost may limit them on what they're able to eat, and so they may not have as healthy of a diet. Accessibility where you live can make a big difference too. Sometimes city grocery stores are more expensive than grocery stores in rural areas. And so if you live in the city, food might be more expensive for you, and so you may have less of a choice in the foods that you eat. And then if you have a car, can make a difference too, because you may not buy as many groceries if you have to walk a mile to the grocery store and a mile back. Those are the economic and physical things that can affect the choices we make about food. Alright, this one's the biggest one, I think. Social. So the first one I put was cultural, and I think that makes a huge difference in the choices we make about our food. And off to the left is some of the food that my mother-in-law makes. She's from Thailand, and so they eat a lot of different foods than I did growing up. So those are spring rolls with some peanut sauce, and then down below that is some chicken drunken noodles is what it's called. So these are things that I love to eat now, but I had never tried before. So your culture makes a big difference in the foods that you eat. They eat a lot of rice and a lot of stir-fry stuff, and so they have a lot more oil probably because of the stir-fry. So it's definitely a different diet. So cultural can make a big difference. Think about what your culture is and your family traditions. Those can make a big difference in the way that you eat. Your family is the biggest factor in choosing choosing foods, because your family is usually who you eat with. And so if your family eats healthy, usually you eat healthy. And family can also, if you all want to eat healthier, then you can work together and support each other in that. Social context. There's lots of social things that play into how we feel about food and what we think about food. Social media can play a big part in how we think about food. We see lots of food on there. People go to a restaurant and they'll post a picture of their food. And even when we see what foods people are making, it gives us ideas of how we might want to eat differently. And that can be a good or a bad thing, depending on who you follow and what they eat and how balanced their diet is. So another thing is the social setting. Where are we eating our food? Do we eat out most of the time? And what places are we choosing to eat at, and who are we eating with? That can make a big difference in the food choices we make. Like, even if you're not hungry, but you go with friends and they decide to go out to eat, you'll probably get something just because everyone else is eating. So that can make a big difference in how much food we eat, what food we eat, and the types of food we eat. So our meal patterns too can have a big impact. If you work nights, like, you're going to be eating at different times, and when people are at work, they eat with different people, and so that can play a role in their food choices as well. And then snacks too, like, how healthy are the snacks that you're eating? Or are there snacks available at your work? I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and they said that they have free pop at their work. And so even though they're not usually a pop drinker, they've been drinking a pop every day because it's just there. And so that can make a big difference in the snacks that we eat too. So social can make a huge difference in the choices we make about our food. Psychological. I thought you guys would like this little comic. Stress is desserts spelled backwards. That can be very true. So the way that we feel can make a huge difference in the foods that we eat. When you're stressed, what food do you eat? I make cookies. That's what I do when I'm stressed. Every time I have too much homework to do, I don't do it, and I make cookies instead. So, our mood has a big effect on what food we eat, right? If I'm stressed, then maybe I'm gonna want something sweet, because then the food affects my mood. It makes me feel better. And so those things are so intertwined that I think we probably don't even think about it. And then the other part of psychological is eating disorders and dieting and our body image. These can all affect how we eat. And I think eating disorders has a lot of these different categories involved with it. You know, part of eating disorders may be social, it may be psychological, it may be may also be anyway, some of these categories that we're going through, you know, it involves also our attitudes, our beliefs about foods, and our knowledge about nutrition and our bodies. So eating disorders can combine different parts of all of these factors, and I think it's important that we try to have balance and recognize why we're making the choices that we are about food, and how we can have a healthy body image and avoid fad diets and try to focus on a balanced and healthy diet. So our last thing was our attitudes, belief, and knowledge about food. Definitely what kind of education you have about nutrition is going to make a huge difference in what choices you make about food. If you know what a balanced diet looks like, and you know how to cook, you're probably more likely to eat a healthy diet. Lots of people may believe that they already eat a healthy enough diet. They think they get enough fruits and vegetables and enough of everything they need, and so they have no desire to change that. And that can be something that holds them back from eating healthy. So even if you know and you have an education about nutrition, that doesn't mean that you're a healthy eater. So I want you guys to think about, just for a minute, what could hold you back from eating healthy, even if you know what makes a healthy diet and why you should do it. So some of the things that I thought of that could hold people back, even if they already know about how to eat a healthy diet, the biggest one I thought of was time. I think everyone is so busy in the world right now, and so we think we don't have time to cook. But I think that holds people back from learning how to cook, because there's really a lot of recipes that don't take very long, and you could prep them the night before, and they're healthy. So maybe think about time and how that could be something that blocks you from eating healthy. And another thing, like we just talked about, is lack of cooking skills. If you don't know how to cook, you're going to be much less likely to shop for healthy foods that you could cook, and it's just going to hold you back a lot more, because then you think it will take a long time. So if you know how to cook and you practice, you're probably more likely to eat a healthy diet. Something else I thought of is living alone. If you live alone, cooking can be harder, and so you might just snack more. And if those are healthy snacks, then that might be fine, but it may be harder to keep a balanced diet if you're living alone. So I hope you guys will think about all of these 5 things that can have an effect on the way you choose food. And think about your diet, and think about if you think that you're eating a healthy and balanced diet with all of those food groups in it, with protein and with carbohydrates and with fruits and vegetables. And so think about these things, and think about how all of these aspects play a role in your food choices, and what things you might want to change a little bit so that you can eat a healthier diet. Thanks for joining me today.